I'm Savara, and this is my first real YouTube video. I'm gonna do a series about topics that interest me, and the first one, this one, is gonna be about fan language. Now, when I say fan language, I'm not talking about fans like these, but I'm talking about people who are a fan of something. And it's more commonly known as fanspeak as well, but I do prefer fan language. Okay, and to start at the beginning, the word fan itself is an Americanism. It originated in the 1800s, and it's a shorter form of the word fanatic. The word fanatic meaning someone who has a lot of zeal for something, is very enthusiastic about something, and was mainly used for political and religious topics. And the word fan itself, of course, simply indicates someone who really likes something and considers themselves to be a fan of that. Fan language, also known as fanspeak, mostly in the science fiction and fantasy communities, is simply the language that fans use to talk to each other. And it's mainly used online, but it's also used in real life when fans get together for conventions or when they just chat to friends about whatever they are a fan of. People don't always agree on what fan language exactly is. Some people consider it to be a register. Now, a register is a type of language you use that's appropriate for certain situations. So you have a formal register and an informal register, for example. Other people think of fan language as a jargon. Most people know the word jargon. For example, you have the medical jargon used by doctors. It's the specific language used in the field of interest when you have words specific to that interest. And I think that's probably closest to what fan language is at the moment, because it uses a lot of words specific for whatever the fans are a fan of. But some people also consider fan language to be a dialect, and I'll just read this definition of what a dialect is. A dialect is a variety of language that is distinguished from other varieties of the same language by features of phonology, grammar, and vocab, and by its use by a group of speakers who are set off from others geographically or socially. So a dialect isn't necessarily a group of speakers who speak a type of their language because of the region they live in. It can also be a social thing. Now, in that definition of something social, a social group, it could apply to fan language, but I think that at the moment there's not enough difference from normal English in fan language to consider it a dialect. It originated in the 1970s, mainly at science fiction conventions, and it was used as a way to distinguish the real fans, the fans who went to conventions and who read the fanzines, from the more casual fans who stayed at home and just watched the movies but otherwise didn't really do much with their fandom. A fanzine is a fan magazine, and it's also a word used in fan language, but it's also in use now in more commonly used English. So that's quite an interesting example. Originally it was fan mag, used in the early 1900s, but lately the other form, fanzine, has been more commonly used. Some of the specific characteristics of fan language is the words that they use. They use sometimes special words that they made up or that started to become more commonly used. And they use a lot of acronyms as well, and sometimes alternate forms of normal English words. Like in the science fiction community, it's quite normal to talk about fan in plural, and then they write it with an E as just an alternate plural to fans, to again distinguish themselves from the normal population. Let's name a few words that are specific to fan language. We'll just start with the really basic ones. You have words like fandom and fanfiction and fan art. A lot of things that start with fan relate to fan language in some way. Fanfiction is simply a story written by fans for fans about the thing they are a fan of, and what they are a fan of you usually call a fandom in fan language. Something else is, for example, shipper. If you're a shipper, and the word shipper comes from relationship, then you like to put certain characters together. Say, if you're a Twilight fan, but you think that Bella should be with Jacob and not with Edward, then you're a Jacob and Bella shipper. That's what they call it. Okay, I also did some surveys about this topic, about fan language and fandom in general, And I'd like to read some of the quotes I got from there because it's quite interesting, I think. The first one is about the topics that people are a fan of. Most people don't think of a holiday as something to be a fan of, but actually it has quite a big following. It is fan culture just as much as anime and Harry Potter and Twilight are. And Christmas has a huge following too. I got this quote from Chris, 22 years old from the USA, and she's a fan of Halloween. Topic and language. Among America fans here in Germany, we use a lot of English expressions instead of the German ones, says Daniela, 19 years old from Germany. And from the same girl, online the percentage of English expressions used is way higher than offline, maybe 65% online to 30% offline. Again, from Germany. Now, I'm Dutch myself and I recognize this. When I speak to Dutch fans online, I would use more English than I would use in real life conversation. There's another smaller topic that I'm really quite interested in, is that just wondering, how do all the non-native speakers of English influence the language in fan communities? Because the internet is a big place, of course, and a lot of fan forums and fan websites have a lot of visitors from other countries, and they join in the conversations, and I think that it has a big influence. I didn't get too many replies about that in the survey, but the way I see it is that non-standard English can be used by non-native speakers of the language so often that eventually becomes the new norm, even among English speakers in the fan community. I think they have quite a big influence. One of the more obvious examples, of course, being Japanese. A lot of fans of anime and games use Japanese. Even in their English, they will use words like kawaii and I don't know, name it, a lot of Japanese words. And I think it's really interesting to see that they're starting to use words from different languages as well. Some people aren't very happy with that. I got some comments about all the wannabe Japanese, and yeah, I'd say as long as there is an English word, you can use the English one. I mean, you don't need to use the Japanese words, but for concepts that you don't have a word for, it's very practical to just borrow words from a different language. And then lastly, I found this really interesting summary of a talk that someone named Kelly Sukop, and I really hope that I pronounced that name right, that she gave at a convention in 1999, so quite a while ago already. She's a speech therapist, and she observed fans in their natural environments at a convention. And she actually noticed that there are some ways in which fans use non-verbal communication differently than the normal population, so to say. I find this really interesting, and I wonder if it's fan-specific or that it has to do with the higher percentage of people having some kind of disorder. Yeah, it's hard to say, but it's true. There are a lot of people with some form of autism in fandom, and I wonder if it has an influence. I think it must, but in general, I also think what could be the reason for people using different non-verbal cues when they're communicating with each other is also that they could be actually copying the media they see. A lot of anime fans will probably use this sign, or when they're talking actually like put their head to the side like thinking about something, and I think they might be in that way just copying what they see in the things they are a fan of, so the movies and the anime and whatever they like. But it's really interesting, and also she said that they sometimes pronounce their vowels differently, but it could also simply be because at conventions there's usually a lot of people from different places, especially I suppose in America it would be true that there's people from a lot of different states at a convention, so that could also explain part of the reason why it seems that they're speaking differently. Now finally, I think fan language is really interesting, and I'd like to see how it grows and evolves over the next few years. And I think it will only keep growing, because especially now that the internet is more available for everyone, fans have more places to gather online, and also conventions are getting more common all the time. And yeah, I just wonder where it will end up. Thanks for watching. All the information will be on that side. Yeah, bye.